We're now being joined by Peter Obi, former Anambra State Governor, to give us his side of the story on the allegations made against him by Premium Times. Good morning, Mr. Obi, and thank you for coming on the morning show.
Good morning for inviting me, and good morning to the viewers.
Well, the obvious question to ask is, are you guilty as charged? Because you were named in the latest scandal, Pandora Papers, as one of those involved in setting up a secret company for the purpose of money laundering, illegal purchase of properties overseas, while you were in office as governor of Anambra State.
Well, thank you. Number one is that I'm not guilty, charged. Trust company is a legitimate vehicle used everywhere globally for investment, savings, and estate planning purposes. It's allowed by law everywhere. In my particular case and that of my family, it was done on very valuable advice of our then bankers, Lloyds TSB. This is what they did to all their international clients who operated at the time I lived in the UK. They will help you to see that you formulate a trust company offshore, and that is what we did. This company was never used to launder money before, during, and after till date. So it wasn't used anytime I was in office for anything. Two, it was never used to buy property before I went into office, during the time I was in office, and after the time I was in office. It was strictly a trust company that savings and family planning that was strictly used to support our borrowings, which we even invested in this country. And they are facts, they're not things that you can, that's it.
Right.
So,
well, according to confidential information, you have about $500 million squirreled away in the British Virgin Islands and in Switzerland. Can this amount be described as legitimate earnings?
well, I wish, I don't think I would even be here if I had that type of money. But let me tell you, when people bandy money or talk about money and size of money here, it's because we're not a productive country. People don't work for their money. So we find it difficult to understand value of money. And I'll take time to explain this to you. Globally today, the world population is 7,750,000,000, out of which only 37.5 million is worth $1 million. That is 0.05%. Only 3 million, which is 0.04%, is worth 10 million. And only 300,000 is worth $25 million, which is 0.004%. So when people call these figures, it's alarming because of the fact that we live in a country where people make money they don't need and everything. If you go anywhere near this company being mentioned, its accounts, everything globally, and find more than about 3% of the value you mentioned now, 3%, I'm talking about $15 million, out of which 70% is supporting a loan of investment in this country, then confiscate everything, even confiscate everything I have in my life. If you go to this, do you know what $500 million is? $500 billion today in Nigeria is almost 300 billion naira. My entire earning while I was governor, Anambra State received, was under 500 billion, out of which I say 15%, 75 billion. That is you're talking about. I don't know where people call figures here. And that's why people try to make money they don't need. What do you need that type of money for? Why do you have to do that? The money, the trust company is there. And one of the challenges I'm going to throw today is to ask you and some other people to select 1, 2, 3, 4 persons that I will foot their bill to follow the trail of this company to where it is today. And see the formation, who gave the advice, how we came to it and everything. Please, there's nothing, you wouldn't even find 5% of that, of what the figure you called anywhere. If I have $500 million, well, I don't know what I would be doing. You would have seen me building, you know how many schools and institutions I support? I've been building universities all over the place.
Let's talk about Next International UK. They said you didn't resign as the director, of Next, and 14 months after you became the governor, you were still director of Next. Tell us about this Next International company.
Let me tell you. Let me start. Next International we had a company in Nigeria called Next International Nigeria Limited. It's an offshoot of Next International Nigeria. That was Next International UK, which I run as managing director and everything. This company is a UK-based company. It's a brand management company that were representative of companies like Heinz, a number of multinational companies in West Africa, and I was the CEO. And it's good that I tell you the background of how I became governor. I was living in the UK, operating in Nigeria. I declared the governor winner of the election on Thursday, 16th of March, 2006. On that day, I was presiding over Fidelity Bank board meeting as the chairman. And I have members, you can access. One of the members is somebody you value a lot, Bismarck Rwani was a member of the board. Leighton Dubiscama was a member of the board. Jara Magoro was a former Ondo chairman, was a member of I was the chairman. I was presiding over a board meeting, and suddenly, Leighton Dubiscama said, "Stop, Mr. Chairman." I said, "What?" He said, "You've been declared the governor of Anambra State." That was on a board meeting. And that was how the meeting stopped. From there, I called, and they said, "You have to proceed to Abuja to meet for INEC to give you certificate of return." So I left board meeting, went to the airport, got the next flight, went to Abuja. By 6 p.m. that day, they gave me certificate of return. And I said to them, I want to go back to Lagos the next day to bring my clothes, just clothes, to bring a few things so I can go to Oka for this way. They said, no, that please, you need to proceed to Oka immediately because the then governor, Dr. Chris Ngige, because of his circumstances, have left the country. Immediately I was declared, he lost his immunity, so he left through the borders and left out of the country. So there was no government in Anambra State. So that's how the next morning I moved to Oka. Arrived Oka, just took a flight to Enugu, arrived Oka. As I arrived Oka, they took me to the chief judge in a small space. He said, "These are forms for you to fill to declare your access." I filled that form about 30 minutes, whatever I could remember. The next thing I was sworn in as governor. When I finished the swearing in, I asked, okay, so I'm not sworn in. Where does the governor live? They say, because that time, the governor's lodge was burnt down, the office. I said, where is the governor? Does the governor live? They said, there's no house. Where is his office? There's no office. So what do I do? Any paper, anything? Nothing. I managed to get across to somebody who got across to Chris, who said, there's nothing. So I moved to my village. And that was where I stayed there. That was the government. From there, I phoned every company. Let me start with Next International UK. Next International UK, just to show you, I brought this and I'll keep this with you people. Next International UK is a company that is, as at that date, I'm telling you, receives overdraft from Lloyds Bank of over $7 million. This is a trading company. As at that day, I have over 200 containers on the sea and everything. And I've just been announced governor, and here I'm running a company. So the only thing I could do is to phone my wife and said, because she works with me, everybody knows in the company, I'm the CEO, she's my deputy with other. I said, you take charge, I will never come to London again, see what has happened to me. And I was chairman and director of about 11 companies, even in Nigeria. I phoned all of them, said I've resigned. From that day that I went to Oka until I was impeached in November, I never left Oka. Not one day. I resigned. You know, and I wonder what, even at times, I even wonder, why is there an issue 15 years after I was supposed to resign?
So did you
resign
do the needful
completely?
From Next? And did you also put Next in your form? Did you, the asset declaration form, did you declare Next in there and all?
You know, when they talk about the declaration of forms, again, I said, what I declared, when you talk about declaration, I just told you a story now that this company is owned by Next Nigeria. Because at times they say, oh, you didn't declare. I said, no, I didn't declare one. Assets with people. I didn't declare some assets because those assets have been declared somewhere. So if I declare Next Nigeria that I own 5%, I don't have to declare another interest that Next Nigeria owns. Just like they want to say, and I didn't declare something because they were subject of things that were bought from borrowed money. If I come and if you borrow money from me and buy this suit, when they ask the owner, you have to put remark that you're owing somebody because it's not your suit. I can come to collect it tomorrow. So what I tell people is that I declare things that belong to Mr. Peter Obi. Not even Peter Obi and wife and children. No, because I can tell you, I don't know how other people operate. In my house, my wife will always remind me that this thing belongs to me. It's not your own, no. And my children will do it with emphasis. My daughter will even do it with emphasis. Daddy, we agreed that this thing is this. So if you want to, let me tell you, when I said that I want to go and do politics, it's not the first thing they will ask me. Daddy, I hope that what you're using to do your politics is your own money. Oh. Don't bring us into it. We are not part of it. So I don't go and decide declaring things that does not belong to you. You declare things. The purpose of assets declaration is to declare. And most of the assets that are declared have been declared somewhere. So you can't declare a company. For example, I own shares in a bank with my name. I declared it. I didn't declare the one, say, Next International owns, because I've already declared my interest in Next International. It will amount to double declaration.
Well, except that, you know, someone would say in the assets declaration form, you're also required to state the assets you know, that you jointly own, either with your spouse or, you know, that belong to your children. But the question has been that when you set up a trust or a company overseas, do you agree with those who have been alleging that this is strictly for the purpose of tax evasion, to avoid tax due to the Nigerian government?
Ruben, I can tell you, I'm a faithful citizen of anywhere I've passed through. I cannot evade tax. It will never happen. Every investment I've done globally is legitimate and pays tax. I just shown a paper I said I live here. If you're a black man in London, you're a suspect. If you're in Nigeria, you're a double suspect. For me to live in the UK, where my bank can write here and say his account has been conducted in an impeccable manner and gives me over $7 million overdraft. Ruben, that's all. I pay my taxes. If I earn anything in the UK, I pay the UK government their tax. I own a property in London. I pay tax. I cannot come and pay property tax in Nigeria for a property I own in the UK. Money I earn here, I pay tax. Don't forget that I was subject to probe of tax about 2 years ago in Anambra State. And I showed evidence that in the past 20 years, I've consistently paid my tax and I've never paid less than 50 million naira annually. So I pay my tax. There's no issue. It's because maybe, like they expected when they're talking about $500 million, and they think it's about tax. No, the tax are duly paid for investment incomes as expected. Nobody, I cannot evade tax.
So what about the specific allegation? You've talked about your resignation from Next International. You've talked about your assets declaration. But the specific allegation that you broke the law, that you flouted the provisions of the Code of Conduct Bureau and Tribunal Act, and flouted the Constitution by having foreign accounts.
No,
Can you address that?
I never did. I didn't. I never did. I didn't. 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 I didn't break the law. Simple. Everything I did was within the line, and I've told you also the circumstances in which I became governor. You know, everything I did was within the law, and I've told you the circumstances in which I became governor as well. Notwithstanding, even that there was never a time anybody said to me, Peter, come. The reason why you see election, when you have election, it takes 3 months for swearing in, is to be able to have orientation. Notwithstanding that I never had any orientation, nobody said to me, you have to do this, you have to do this. But by my own commitment to do the right things, I tried to stay within the law. And I can tell you, I was within the law. What you're seeing now is a situation where, oh, we've looked for everything. If we can't find anything against this man, since he's been, like I said, since he's going about preaching about saving, preaching about this, let's just throw anything on him. What I was preaching about saving is what I did. I'm always happy when I see Ruben here, because Ruben was part of a government that I participated. The very first day I became governor, the first thing I discussed in my ESCO with my executives is that we must save money. They came up and said, why? I said, listen, as a father, I save money for my children. And they know. So I must save money for the children of Anambra State. Even when I was impeached, go and read my impeachment notice. One of the third point of why I was impeached is saving money without authority of the House. I came back from that impeachment. I said, we must continue saving. As long as I'm here, whenever we receive our FAC allocation, the first thing we do is remove money for pension, remove money for gratuity, remove saving, pay salary, then the rest we can work with. If you don't do it, I'm not part of it. And this you can see everywhere. If you go to Ngozi Wala's book, which you can see, page 61, he showed it there that all the governors, all of us were in a meeting, refused when he was talking about saving. And he said that only Peter Obi, who argued for saving, was shouted down by his colleagues. It was only Lily Moke that supported me. If you call Sheguna Aganga, when he was doing sovereign wealth fund, he would tell you, he's in his own notes, that only Peter Obi who supported sovereign wealth fund to be set up and savings. If I have opportunity of being part of Nigeria at the helm, the first law I will take, the first executive bill I will take to the House is that Nigeria must save money. We must have at least 5 to 10% of our resources from oil, from mineral resources, from natural resources, saved for future generation. Because the expiring assets, every country is doing savings. That's why we have a problem because we don't save. You must save money. You must bequeath your children a better place than you found it. And that includes saving for them. I save for my family, and they know.
Okay. So just confirm for me again, as way of housekeeping, the $500 million is a phantom amount.
No. I said
and if you have 1/3 of that, like you said.
No, I didn't say 1/3. I said if you go there and find more than 3%, which is about 3%, which is about $15 million.
Okay.
If I bequeath my children $500 million, I've cost them.
Okay.
There's money you bequeath people, you cost them.
Okay.
You know, you bequeath them what is manageable and everything, so they can start their life.
Okay, so $15 million
I said,
is the number.
If you have something, if you see anything more than that, confiscate what I have overseas and locally here.
Okay, so